Well, hello, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. Aaron Shiner here, looking forwards to another monthly coaching webinar with you guys, looking forwards to sharing and looking forwards to sort of getting into some key strategies to help you guys and girls get more listings, make more sales, but also talk about a little bit of marketing that we can do halfway through the year. And as the session is sort of titled, have a great second half to 2019. So I'd just like to spend maybe 45, 55 minutes with you today, giving you some suggestions, some recommendations, some strategies and ideas on some things if you haven't thought about doing, possibly you could in your business in the sort of coming months ahead. I just wanted to share the agenda with you, I guess, first and foremost, and let me just share my screen with you. All right, hopefully everybody can see that. Okay. So what I'd like to do is just share my screen with you just for a little bit and just go over some of the agenda items that we're going to cover today. So obviously here in Australia, we've just had a couple of weeks out from a federal election. So I'd like to talk to you about how we can capitalise on that with both your buyers and your sellers. I would also like to talk about, what are some of those key actions we can take halfway through the year, and for us here in Australia, all around the financial year. But if you're in New Zealand, it's the winter months. So what can you do in those winter months around marketing to sort of, fill your pipeline and make sure you've got listings coming on. Also, one of the things that's always popular whenever I ask people, what are some of the challenges that you're facing right now, one of the number one concerns or objections or comments that always comes up is, can you help us with fee negotiation? So I've got a real special treat for everybody on today's call. So I want to talk about that. Also, want to talk about how are we going to convert some of the appraisals we've done in the past sort of 3, 6, 12 months in the current market today. How we're negotiating with some of our buyers, and then just some digital prospecting methods. So I think that's more than enough. There's sort of 5 or 6 points there to see us through. So, and here's what I've got for everybody. If you stick around till the end of the session today, I'm going to give you 2 links in the chat. So I'm going to chat comment 2 links to you. I'm going to send you a link to my new ebook, which is the 7 scripts and dialogues to help you secure higher fees. And I'm also going to send you a link to this PDF workbook. But again, it's only for the people that sort of stick around at the end. So let me just share with you what this workbook sort of looks like. You guys will basically be the first to get it, because it goes sort of promotion in the next couple of weeks, but it's sort of hot off the press this week. So it's a quick read. That's the upside to it. We just got some key rules and ideologies around fee negotiation. Then we just sort of get into the 7 best sort of scripts and dialogues around fees. So it's designed to be like a little cheat sheet that you can have on your desk near you, or you can take with you at a listing presentation. So if you do get questions, you can sort of look at them as a bit of a reference and a guide. So I'm happy to make that for you, happy to give that to you. So hopefully you get as much value out of it as what I've been sort of enjoyed making it for you. So let's get into it. And I think we just start off with the number 1 agenda item, especially now, if you're in New Zealand, you're saying, well, hey, we haven't had a federal election. I know, you will sooner rather than later. So instead of doing this retrospectively, like what I'm sharing with the Aussies here, like we're a couple of weeks out, if you have something like this leading into an election, you can get ready for this for when the flag drops. You're already out there. So just keep it in mind for your next your next election. So let me get into it with you. So the first thing for me that I want to talk about is, let's get back to business, because here's what I know. There's been a lot of consumers, a lot of customers, both in the private and business sectors, that have been holding off. Like I've spoken to a lot of business owners that have said, look, we were just waiting to see what happens at the election. And there's a lot of buyers and there's a lot of sellers that are in the same boat. There's heaps of people that are in the exact same boat as them that are saying, hey, look, we didn't know what was going to happen. We'll just wait. So what's my point? Now is the time to communicate with them and let them know that it's a great time to do business. So for me, that comes in the way of a 3-step campaign. And for me, that can be as simple as doing a farm area flyer, a direct mail letter, or an email to your database. This is the letter. Obviously, it's going to be as part of your PDF workbook, and you can grab it, you can reuse it. But for me, where it says now the election's over, let's get back to business, and it just says with a typically when an election is looming, things sort of freeze, the economy goes stale, real estate in particular, this happens. Now the election's over, let's get back to business. So this template really just sort of highlights that, okay, the election's now over. Here are some really strong reasons why you should do something now. And here's what I know. Throughout, obviously I work with, on a one-on-one basis, I work with 20 agents at a time. And then without the officers that I coach, which is about 50 officers that I coach regularly, I'm in constant communication with these people. If it's not weekly, it's fortnightly. And the overwhelming majority of people, especially on the East Coast, have said since the election, they've seen more buyers out. And I've actually had from Queensland, one of my coaching clients said he saw more buyer activity in the last few weeks since the election than he saw in the past, previous months. And that was the same for Victoria as well. So what's my point? My point is very simple. We should be communicating that message to potential sellers. We need to tell potential sellers that now is a great time to sell, because here's also a very important fact, and that is there was lots of buyers that have been holding off for the past 2, 3, 4 months to see what happens. So what you're going to see is a short influx of buyers that held off buying will buy now. So you're going to see a spike in the market, and then what's going to happen is that's going to sort of level back out, and all those buyers that were holding off would have bought, and then we'll just go back to the normal supply and demand. But right now, and in my opinion, for the next 6 to 8 weeks, we're going to get a lot of those buyers that were holding off for doing something over the last quarter, doing it now. So that's something that we should be communicating with our sellers, telling them exactly that, telling them about we've got an increase of buyers, telling them that there's more confidence in the market, and also, and I'm not fully up to date with this, but obviously I've read articles around, they're talking about a new first homeowners scheme to give a first homeowners grant back on a federal level. So these are the things we should be discussing. It's all good news. It's all positive. So that's step 1 in the campaign. I'd love it if you could grab this template, change it to suit your style, your look, your feel. You can hard mail it to your clients. You can email it to your clients. You can letterbox drop it to your farm area. But my point is, we should be communicating something positive that the election's now over. So that's sort of step 1 in that campaign. Step 2 for me is pretty simple, and that's just a very simple text message. Just jump on the phone and start texting your landlords, your past appraisals. Text your buyers. I don't really mind. Text anybody who you believe is in property mode. And what I mean by property mode, I mean people that are thinking about either buying or selling or renting a property. And just text them and say, hey, now the election's over, let's get back to business. Since the election, we've noticed an increase of buyer inquiry, with many looking to secure a property before the end of the financial year. Or if you're, wherever you are, if you're thinking about selling now or in the next 18 months, give us a call. Now, I've got a coaching client, Regina, from Methven's Professionals, who really sort of took this concept and didn't just change it, improved it, and sort of said, since the election, we've sold X amount of properties, we've had X amount of buyer inquiries, we've done X amount of inspections, and really sort of put the meat on the bone to show her potential sellers how busy they actually are. And I call that the real life tidbits, because there's some real sort of tangibles that are in that text. And if you're a seller, you know, and I think for the group, there was like 480 odd buyer inspections or whatever it was. And it was a significant number. And if you're thinking about selling, it would be significant enough to make your ears sort of stand up or your ears prick up and you pay attention. So regardless, I think a text message to engage your potential sellers, regardless of if it's my message or if it's an improved message, I don't really mind. But communicating with your sellers that now is a great time, I think is really important. So I'd love it if everybody can sort of, you know, take that concept, put your own spin on it. Even, you know what, humour me. You could even, you know, turn that into a Facebook post. You could even, and call me crazy here, guys, you could get in front of a camera for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, just film it on an iPhone, I don't really mind, and just get face to camera and just say, hey, the election's over, we've seen an increase of buyers, we're super busy, if you're thinking about doing something, I'd love to have a chat. Regardless of whatever it is you say, text that out, put it on your Facebook, put it on your Instagram stories, do whatever, but communicate you as a video, sort of just talking about it, because I think that face-to-camera connection helps you become the authority about what's going on in the marketplace as well. So just a couple of little ideas for you. And then I think last but not least, and that is jumping on the phone and following up those emails, following up those text message with people that you think, you know, maybe you haven't spoken to for a little while. Maybe they've fallen through the gaps. Maybe you've done an appraisal for them 6 months ago and things haven't been great. So you didn't call them because you didn't know what to say and you're looking for a reason. Well, maybe the election and you know, what's going on now is the reason, just to touch base and just say hello. So for me, that is a really simple election campaign, 3 or 4 step process. You know, do some videos, do some text, do some emails, do some letterbox drops in the call. And, you know, realistically, this campaign has realistically maybe another 2 to 4 weeks left in regards to you know, its relevance. And I think after that it sort of loses a little bit of relevance. So and it's funny, I'm trying to read some chats as well as these sort of come in. So, and I'm seeing some people giving me a hard time, asking me who won State of Origin and everything else last night. So yes, I know Queensland won. Yes, I know that was a rough night. It was funny as we break for a second. I'm not a huge football fan, but I watch it when my team plays or State of Origin. My wife said to me at half time, she said, who's going to win? And I said, who do I want to have win or who do I think is going to win? Because they're 2 different answers. And she said to me, well, who do you want to have win? I said, of course, New South Wales. She said, who do you think's going to win? I said, Queensland seem to do it to us almost every game, every year. They seem to have that second half surge that just makes them a winning team. And, you know, I was actually talking to my wife about culture and leadership. And I just said, it's interesting. I said, because over the last decade, the Queensland team have developed this culture of winning. Even when their chips are down, they find a way to dig deep. They find a way to win. And that's one thing about winners. They always seem to find a way to win, even when the odds are stacked against them, even when the chips are down. And in New South Wales, unfortunately, I think there's this culture of losing. You know, it's what they've done basically. You know, in segments they've had some glimpses, but across the board of the last 12, 15 years, I'll probably get caned for saying it, but they've developed the culture of losing. And even if they're in the lead, they find a way to lose. And there was a part in that game, and I know this isn't helping anybody sell more real estate, but I thought this was really interesting. There was a part in the game where Queensland put in a few really quick tries. And I said, and my wife said, oh, New South Wales look like they're getting tired. I said, at this point, this isn't a fitness game. This is now a mental game. This is a game of mental wills, and one team's getting mentally stronger, one team's mentally breaking. I said, because they're all tired and they're all hurting at this point. It's not one team's fitter than the other. it's one team is finding a way while the other team is melting under pressure. And I thought that was a really interesting crossover to real estate as well, because there's some of us develop a culture of winning, and some of us develop a culture of losing. But we're either developing a culture of winning, or we're developing a culture of losing, and there's very little in between on that. So someone asked me, can I put the text message back on the screen so you can capture it? Sure, Kathleen, that's no problems. So now also, I'm going to move on from that. I just thought I'd sort of put some real estate concept around it, because that was what I was thinking when I was watching it. But enough about me. So over we go. So what I'd like to do now is just discuss the listing blitz, something that I regularly run, something that I've been speaking about for a long time. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I just want to treat this more as a refresher. Now, for those of you who are in New Zealand, obviously March was your financial year. And you know what? Even if you haven't done this when you were meant to, sort of April, May, you could still run it now. It wouldn't be too late if nobody else in your area has run it. If they have run it, then I would definitely leave it alone. But for everybody here in Australia, obviously the financial year coming up next month, I'd be getting ready for this campaign to go for your database in your farm area relatively quickly, and that is the important notice flyer. You say, well, what should I do with it? How do I use it? Pretty simple. Generate this template, and I want you to do a couple of things with it. I want you to letterbox shop it to your farm area. I want you to email it to your database. You can post it to your past appraisals. So I mean physically hard mail it to your post appraisals. I mean stick it on your social media. Make a video with it. Text it out. I want you to put it everywhere, as far wide and reaching as you can get this sort of flyer. Just drop it out. And because I know there's always 2 times of the year where there's always high activity to find out a value of their property or of somebody's property. Time number 1 is at the beginning of the year when people are coming back from holidays and work and getting back into work. That's one time. And the second time is when people need to get an update on value around the financial year. So I'd love it if you could all sort of letterbox shop it, email it, hard mail it, Facebook post it, put it basically anywhere where somebody can sort of see it. Where do I get those templates from? So you can get access to that template for free, Kathleen, from Jiggler. There, I knew people were going to ask me, so I threw it up there. So, and you can access that template, put your own colors in it, change it, put your logos. You can fully edit it. It's free to create an account. It's free to set up that template and go do your thing with it. So, and now, so hopefully you've got that sort of captured. If you do, that's awesome. So that gives you access to that template. And then, because what I didn't want to do is just give it to you as a PDF and then you have to sit there and try and create it. I prefer to just to give you the website. You go to the website, you can create the template and you've got access to it. You can put it to your brand colors, your logo. You can customize it, change the wording if you like, do whatever you like with it. So, so step 1, just get that out. And what I mean, step 1, I mean towards the end of this month, I'd like you to start planning that. Just towards the end of this month, start to plan it. So, when the beginning of next month comes, the first week, you've already got it all ready. Everything's printed. Everything's ready to go. So what my goal here is that you sort of catch your competition asleep at the wheel. That's the real mission, or that's the real goal for me. After that, what you might want to do is just text everybody. Now, again, it doesn't have to say what my message says. It's just the rule of thumb. But what I'd love you to do is literally just text every single person that's in property mode. I don't care if it's a buyer, a seller, landlord. I don't really mind. Change the SMS to suit the theme, but it can be as simple as, hey, haven't spoken to you for a while, thought I would say hello. If you want to know what your property is worth, now's a great time. Financial year, people use this time of year to get their property paperwork, their property affairs in order. If you need to know the value of your home, give me a buzz. It's simple, right? Just a nice, simple, clean SMS that just asks that question. Some will take you up on the offer, a lot won't, but at least you've asked the question. You know, always remember this, guys. The answer is always no until you ask. So you've always got to find new and sort of creative ways to ask the question, opposed to just doing it on the phone. You know, email them and ask them, text them and ask them, send them a letter and ask them. Mix it up a little bit. So I'm not going to talk any more about campaigns. We're sort of done there. So you've got the election campaign, you've got the tax time campaign. Now, if those two things are basically your next 2 months worth of prospecting. The election you can run to the end of the month. Next month you can run the financial year, end of financial year campaign. That's 2 months worth of solid marketing and prospecting on your social media, your database, your farm area, sort of covered with two very relevant and two very powerful messages. Can I just see a show of hands? If I can, maybe I can, maybe I can't. Can I just see a show of hands for people who will actually do that for me? I'd just be curious to sort of see. Awesome, lots of hands, participants' hands raised. Oh, excellent, guys and girls. Happy to see it. Love to see it, actually. So well done. Just like what it just beats running around saying, "Do you want a free appraisal? Would you like to know what your house is worth?" It's these tools that are in front of you are great icebreakers. They're great things where if you want to call somebody, you can just say, "Hey, look, I haven't spoken to you in a while. Did you get the message? Did you get that text message? Did you get the text message I sent you, or did you get the letter I sent you?" "Oh, yeah, I did, Aaron. I was meaning to call." But it's just good icebreakers. So hey, Jeff. Jeff, I just saw Jeff. Adam Wells, having a genuine reason to call is the best. Not just I agree. 100%. When you've got, hey, it's tax time. Do you need to know? Hey, it's the election's just over. They're genuinely good reasons, not just trying to manufacture something. So use them. If you've got some news about what's sold in the street or something that's relevant to them, also add that, because it's going to add value. 100% agree with you, Adam. 110% agree. Francis says he can't take notes because it's a long drive. Well, the upside is I am recording it, so you can watch it back if you need to. And I see that Jeff Grist is on the call. Jeff, welcome. For everybody, a lot of people won't know Jeff. Jeff's come to my mastermind coaching, like the 2-day things I've done in the past. Jeff's been a great friend of mine for years. Jeff does the CEO sleep out every single year. So where he raises money for homeless, sleeps out in the cold. So typically I always wish it to be a cold and rainy night, just to really sort of soak in the experience. So Jeff, maybe if you like, you can throw up a link to your cause, and if anyone wants to donate to raise the money, that is awesome. If not, totally cool. But I just saw Jeff on the call. It's a good cause. If anyone wants to tip in, I tipped in $50 yesterday. It might help. Anyway, enough about that. So throw your link up, Jeff, if you want to. Where it is, I think that goes to just goes to all panelists. So I'd like to see if I could. I'm going to try and I'll put it to everybody, Jeff. If you put it to there, I'll send it to everybody. So cool. All right. So let me keep going. So now here is something I'd like everybody to do as we sort of move forwards, and that is one of the agenda items I spoke about, or I promised, was converting appraisals in today's market. What are some things we should do? What are some things that we can do to sort of generate? Here we go. Search my name. So, yeah, here we go. Just give me 2 seconds, ladies and gentlemen, all panelists and attendees. Okay, so I've just chatted back to everybody there. That's where it is. So one of the things I think is really important at this time of year is just to take time to reflect on the appraisals that you've already done. I think that is very important. So when I mean the appraisals you've already done, look at all the appraisals you've done since the beginning of the year. But basically, I can't believe it. We're halfway through the year. So take stock of the appraisals that you've already done so far this year, and actually look at that list and think to yourself, who is due for a call? And literally, if you haven't spoken to them since you've done the appraisal, just pick up the phone and say hello. It can be as simple as, hey, I know I done an appraisal sort of 4, 5, 6 months ago. Hadn't spoken to you for a while. Just thought I'd check in, say hello, touch base, see how everything's going. How's everything on your end? Here's what's going on my end. One of the things I think is really important, I think we're always, as an industry, we're always so focused on now business. Sometimes we forget to just touch base with people that we should have touch base with in the past. So I think that is step one here. Let's just all agree. Can we all agree? Sound is. Oh, sorry, Phil. I'll try and speak a little bit closer. If I'm dropping out a little bit, I apologise. Good to see you on the call as well, Phil. And I've got to say to everybody, I really admire Phil. Every training session, you know, he's the business owner and he's in there with all his salespeople. I really appreciate it. But what I was saying was, you know, create that list of past appraisals and just get in contact with them. I think we all spend a lot of time chasing our business, sometimes to the detriment of tomorrow business. And I think, you know, just creating that list, it will even just jog a few memories of, oh, I should be calling those people. So that's what I'd like everybody to do. Simply create a list, pick up the phone, send them a text, and get in contact with them. Because here's what it looks like. Here's what it looks like for me. There's 4 types of clients in our database, right? And this is a little exercise we can all do to find some now sellers and how to convert you know, some pipeline people a little bit easier. For me, there's 4 types of clients in our database. So let me explain. You know, we've got these first-class customers, and this is basically what I want everybody to do. I want everybody to identify who our first-class customers are. And what I mean by that are, who are the people that have spent money with us? Who are the people that are likely to spend money with us? So for me, first-class customers are people like your current landlords. Joanna, I'm now specifically talking to you if you can hear me. Joanna from Professionals, a service announcement. First-class customers, your landlords, people that are currently spending money with you. They know you, they like you, they trust you. You know, you want to make sure you've got a really good relationship with those people. So when it comes time to sell, they don't just, you know, use you for your property management, they use you to sell as well. So identify who your first-class customers are. Identify who are those people that you really click with. You know, a first-class customer can also be what I call an evangelist, a raving fan, somebody that sends you referrals, someone that doesn't just send you 1 or 2 referrals, they send you, I'm glad that you acknowledged me, Joanna. I was hoping you weren't going to ignore me. So thank you. But, you know, your first-class customers, your landlords, your raving fans, people you've sold houses for in the past, I want you to be able to identify them so you can have a regular communication. It doesn't mean, when I mean a regular communication, I don't mean a regular conversation, but you can send them a text, you can send them a link to a video, you can engage them, you can, I don't know, show them some love, you can sort of, you know, have a regular conversation. Then in your database, you know, you've got to have your business class customers. And for me, business class customers are your future business. They're the people that you've done appraisals for that haven't come to market yet. These are the people that you've identified at an open house that they're a buyer, but you also have identified that they've got a house to sell. They're your future business. You know, people that have bought properties from you. People that have bought houses or units or properties from you have moved into the area and they're going to be tomorrow's seller. They're business class customers. We need to have a strategy to make sure that these people are hearing from us and you know, we're showing them some love. Like I can tell you right now, I practice what I preach. Like a lot of you on this call, I emailed personally. to invite you to this, because we've either done business in the past, we're currently doing business, or we're going to do business in the future with training. You know, I've emailed you to make sure you're on this call because I want to add value. It's the exact same sort of principle, just in a different sort of example. Make sure that you can identify who those awesome people in your business are, who make your business great, and you make sure that you do a great job for those people. Then you've got your economy flyers. Then these are people like your active buyers. Yeah, okay, you know, they might not have a house to sell, but they are going to buy. They're in property mode. You know, so you may as well, you know, show them some love, stay in contact with them. And then you've got your prospects. And your prospects are, you know, are the people that live in the farm area. You know, they live in the area that you service, so they should hear from you, you know, as well. So for me, if we're trying to convert some now listings, look at the lowest hanging fruit. Start at first class. And obviously there's going to be a smaller amount of people, and then work down. So don't start at prospect, because here's the challenge I see a lot of the time. A lot of us start at prospect. And what I mean, they start at prospect, they start with people that have got no intention of buying or selling. The client doesn't know the agent, and that's a hard slog. Where if we start with first and business class, you're going to go a lot further with having good quality, genuine conversations and converting a higher percentage than you did if you just sort of march out into the farm area. So I really just want everybody to think about how that applies to your business. You know, how does that apply to your business? How do you take this information and implement it? And I can't see all of you on this call, but hopefully some of you are sitting there saying, you know what, I've been spending a lot of time in prospect mode where I might have neglected some first class and business class customers. Just see a show of hands, you know, if that's you, or you've probably been a little bit too heavy. Okay, a few hands, yeah. Yeah, about 14 hands just went up like instantly. And there's no right or wrong. And it's not an either or strategy. So it's not, I will speak to first and business class customers and ignore prospects. I'm not saying that. It's an and strategy. So while you're doing your prospects, great, but also have a strategy for these other customers as well. You know, we've got to make sure it's everybody is hearing from us. You know, one of my favorite sayings, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And you've got to be able to sort of, you know, that's the trick, isn't it? You know, stay in contact with everybody. So that's the goal. One thing I was going to talk about on my last webinar with everybody, but we sort of run out of time, so I wanted to cover it today, and that was, you know, about, again, converting appraisals in today's market and about getting referrals. So I would like to chat about that a little bit as well, if I can. So let me, I'm just sort of, if there's any questions, please sort of type them, and I'll try and answer them as well. So I'm just having a look for different chats as well. Cool. All right, so I think we're up to date. All right, so let's just get straight into referrals. And in my opinion, referrals are the lifeblood of any successful real estate agent, because what we go out and hunt and prospect for sort of every day is what I would call the baseline. That's our bread and butter. And referrals, in a lot of instances, should be the cream, should be the profit, and they're the best types of clients. Lever, like, in my opinion, it's just my opinion. In my experience, the two best types of clients I can deal with, you can deal with, I've had the pleasure of dealing with, are referral customers, so people that were referred to you because they're already pre-sold. And then the second type of customer that is awesome is a past customer. So for me, your returning clients, that's what I call a past customer. A returning client are awesome because you've already got a great relationship. They already know you can do a great job. They already see value in you. So returning clients and referral customers, in my opinion, are the two best types of business that we can get. And everybody on this call, even if it's not where you are in your career right now, everybody on this call should be working towards having your returning customers and referral business as your number one lead source. And what I mean by that, that should be the number one place you get business from. So what I want to do is just spend a minute or two just sort of sharing some strategies with you. I just want to share some strategies with you around how do we get more referrals? How do we build goodwill? And I think that's really what we're talking about. You know, we've all got a job to do. I understand the concept. We've all got to get listings and get sales and do the business. That's how we get paid. That's how we, you know, put a roof over our heads, provide for our families or whatever. But there's also two types of agents. And to be honest, let's be completely transparent. I've been both types of agents, and I think we all have at some parts of our career. There's two types of agents. There's agents that can do those transactions, and we build goodwill with every transaction. And then there's some agents that do the transaction and leave a path of destruction in their wake, and they don't get the future business off the back of it. And I get it. You know, if real estate was easy, everybody would be doing it, but it's not. So you're not going to please everybody 100% of the time. That's what I think we've sort of got to come to grips with. But if you want to talk about building goodwill, you know, showing that you care, you know, really sort of putting deposits into the emotional bank account for sellers, for me, there's 5 times throughout a presentation or throughout a seller life cycle where you can really add some goodwill and build some feel-good moments. And let's talk about it. One of the things we should all be doing is trying to build really goodwill before the listing presentation, because that we should be trying to sell ourselves on how we're different, how we're better, before we even step foot in the door to do the listing presentation. And what I mean by that is pretty simple. You want the client, and what I mean by the client, you want that potential seller to be pre-sold on you. Listen to my words because they're very important. You want them to be pre-sold on you before you step foot in the door. So you want them to be thinking, hey, I might be seeing 3 or 4 agents, but I really like this agent. Either they like you personally or they like something you do in business. So for me, there's got to be something that you do that pre-sells you before you step foot in the door. You know, one of my coaching clients that I work with, has a really good strategy. You know, she gives them a little box. In that box is like a confirmation letter and you know, pre-listing kit and some of those things. In there's a couple of coffee mugs or, you know, drinking mugs. It's got some tea and coffee and a little handwritten note that says, you know, tea and coffees are on me. You know, put the kettle on for when I get there. You know, that's her style, and it works really well for her. You know, that's a point of difference, right? For you, that might just be as simple as sending like an introductory video and following it up with an SMS. But do something that is different before the listing presentation. It doesn't have to be exactly what I just said there, but I'm saying in your personality, in your look and feel, do something that is different to what the other agents in your area are doing before the listing presentation. Thing number 1. Thing number 2 for me that works really well after the listing presentation. And one of the things, and you know, for me, a feel-good moment is realistically about going above and beyond. It's about doing the things that weren't expected of you, doing the things that, you know, you weren't required to do, but you did them, right? So for me, after a listing presentation, so I've done the listing presentation, I haven't got the authority, I haven't got the necessary paperwork yet, but I have done it and I'm in consideration. So I'm one of the you know, 2 or 3 agents that is in consideration for listing. What are some of the things like you can do? For me, one of the things that I like to do as part of my feel good moments at this point is pretty simple. and that is I like to send a text, I like to send a text message that evening, not at 3 or 4, but at like 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, because it lets the client know, or the potential client know, that you're still working hard, that you're still on the job. Where all the other agents have sort of clocked off, had dinner, you're still sort of thinking about them. Now, the great thing is, in most databases that we use today, most CRMs, we can all schedule those texts. We can schedule those texts while we're at our desk at 3, schedule it for 7, and fire it off. Regardless, I need you guys to think about some things that you can do. I need you guys. Okay, my volume's just dropped off, so I apologise. I'll get a little bit closer. Here's the problem: when I speak closer to the microphone, I have to bring my head closer to the screen, and then all of a sudden, all you see is my forehead, right? So hopefully, I think it's Blanche is how I pronounce it. Is that better? Did that fix? I hope so. So before listing, immediately after, thank you. Immediately after the listing, and then on securing the listing. One of the things I like to do after the listing is really simple, and that is, if you secure that listing, I love to pick up the phone the evening of securing the listing and calling that client and just very simply saying, hey, look, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. You could have chosen to list with anybody, but you chose to list with me, and I appreciate that. I think that is a really critical time in the agent and seller relationship, where I call it like bonding, right? Like, you've got to bond with your client really quickly, in my opinion. Because if you don't bond with your client initially, they think, well, this agent's just signed me up and now they're gone. They're going to have that little bit of, I don't know if the word's resentment, but they're not going to bond to you. They're not going to relate to you. They're just going to treat you as a typical real estate agent. They're not going to treat you as their friend in real estate. So here's the point. I don't care what you do, but on securing the listing, here's what I know. And I'm talking really clear, and I'm trying to speak really loud to make sure that we get it on audio. And that is, you've got to figure out a way to bond with your client on a likable and personable level. Basically, the second that authority is signed, now you're not just one of 3 or 4 agents. Now you are their real estate agent. Okay. That is key. Okay, so I don't care what you do, if it's a text, if it's a call, but I want you to do it. Okay. Hey, good to see you, Stuart. I was wondering where you went. Good that I've been sending you invites, and I'm glad that you're on this call. So good to see you, mate. And Troy, I'm glad my volume is better. So, all right. So last one on sellers, and then on settlement, right? So on settlement, I always like to make sure it's a feel-good moment, and that can be as simple as you seeing the client, you giving them a gift, shaking their hand, looking them in the eye, saying, you know what, you could have chosen to list with anybody, but you chose to list with me, and I didn't take that for granted, and I didn't take that lightly. I know I'm not perfect, but I did try hard for you, and I hope you're happy with everything. It can be as simple as that. But I missed on exchange. Sorry, Giselle. On exchange, same sort of thing. On exchange, that's just like a really sort of happy experience. That's where you guys go and put a sold sticker on together. Hug it out. Put a photo on Facebook. Tag them. Tag you. Even if you do like a quick 30-second live Facebook video and say, come here, I want to do a Facebook live video with you, and you're talking about the result as well. I don't really mind what it is you do. Water will find level, and what I mean by that, some of you are going to be more extroverted and more outgoing and will say, hey, I love that Facebook live idea. Some of you are going to be more introverted and say, I'm not comfortable doing that. I'm completely cool. You know, there's way more, there's many roads that lead to Rome. But all I'm trying to say is, in the best way you know how, I'd love it for you to create those feel-good moments with your sellers where you're, and this is basically the key, right? You're bonding with that person. You're not just doing a real estate transaction with those people. You are you're forming a better relationship with them, a more personal relationship with them. You know, because here's what I know: you don't want clients for a transaction, for one transaction. If that's all you're doing, you will constantly be playing catch ups through your whole career. You want to make sure that when that transaction is finished, you now don't have a current client, you have a returning client, and you have a friend. You have a friend that you if you see them at the shops, they don't look the other way and walk away. They approach you and say, "How you been?" They hug you, they shake your hand. That is the goal. And the only way I know how to do that A, B, do exactly what you say you're going to do in real estate, but also B, got to add some personality, you know, to the transaction. It just can't be all business. There's got to be a little bit of you in that transaction each time. Can that help everybody? You know, that little part there. Does that sort of add value? Awesome. Okay. Cool. Because that's not something I normally speak about, right? It's not, you know, normally I'm very structured and here's this template, say this thing, do this thing. But we're talking a little bit more personable now. But then again, let's flip it and let's just talk about it with buyers for a second as well, right? And I'm also being conscious of our time. I'm just being conscious of our time. We've got about 15 minutes and I want to make sure we get you away. So what I would like to do here is just talk about it with buyers. And here's what I know with buyers. In my opinion, a lot of buyers out there just think, I've got to be careful what I share with the real estate agent. I've got to be careful what I say to the real estate agent, and I've got to be careful how I act around the real estate agent. For the very simple fact, they feel like if they show that they're too happy or too excited, we will use that against them to get a higher offer or whatever. So sometimes you will meet buyers, and some buyers are, I don't know what you want to call that, forthcoming and are friendly. Some buyers are very reserved. For me, my goal with buyers is for them to sort of, what I would say, put down their barriers or disarm themselves. I don't know if I'm saying that quite right, but my point is this is the point. You want buyers to be themselves around you. You want buyers to feel comfortable around you. And the only way I know how to do that is to actually have the buyer's best interest at heart, right? And when you genuinely have the buyer's best interest at heart and you're authentic about it, people can feel it, people can sense it, and people will warm up to you. If they can sense that, you know, you're just there for the sale, they will run a mile. They won't relate to you. They will lie to you. They will twist. They will turn, and it's hard work. So let me explain what I mean. The very first thing a buyer needs to know from you, right? And this is, maybe I should add the extra one in. And this is the very first time you meet them, because mine just says on receiving an offer. But the very first time you meet them, I think there's got to be a genuine conversation. And this isn't a conversation around what you're looking for, but this can be, and I always used to do this at open house, right? You get to open house, most buyers have got like this, like, I don't know, I'm trying to do a serious face now, like this serious face, because they've spoken to 10 agents today, they know the spiel. I've always tried to be different. And what I mean by that is I'll always walk up to the buyer with a big smile on my face and say, hey, my name's Aaron. And I'm sort of like this big burst of energy, right? So I'm trying to, like, I don't know, jolt them, if I will. I'm trying to break the habit. Hey, my name's Aaron. And I'd say, what's your name? And they say Bill, Margaret, Betty, whatever, as is. I'd say, look, Mr. Buyer, you've probably been asked this a million times, but I'm going to ask it 1,000,001. Before you come in, I'm going to need to grab some details off you. Is that okay? So I'm just trying to do something a little bit different that breaks the pattern, if you will. So I think the very first thing with buyers is you've got to sort of stand out, and with either positive energy or something that you do that makes them think to themselves, hey, this person is different to all the other agents I've seen. And then you can say this, hey, I just want to know a little bit about what you're looking for, regardless if you buy through me or you buy through a colleague or you buy through a company, another company. I'm cool with that. I think the most important thing here is that we find you, the house that's ideal for you. And if that's through me, then that's great. If it's not, well, at least you found the house. So people have got to know that it's not just, you're not just there for a commission, but if you can help them buy something else, then so be it. Or if they buy one of your colleagues' properties, so be it, right? So I think buyers want to hear that from you, and only say it if you mean it. If you don't, it won't come out authentic, right? Next thing, on receiving an offer, right? Now, this is a very, very critical time in that relationship with buyers, because buyers will automatically think as well, there's a thing called buyer's remorse. Am I making the right decision? Am I choosing the right house? Am I paying too much? Should I be doing it? They're thinking a million different things. So on receiving an offer, I think that is a really critical point in the relationship, where if you want to build a client for life and you want this person to return back to you and send you clients, and that's basically what we're talking about. And let's not lose track of this. We're talking about the things that help you build your business, not just for today's transaction, but for tomorrow's. You want to make sure that when they give you that first offer, you want to congratulate them. You want to make a really big deal out of it. Not to say that congratulations, you bought the house, but you want to let them know that you're excited for them. You want to let them know that you want to help them, and you want to let them know that you're there to help. And because they're nervous, even if they're not physically showing it. Some people might be cool and calm on the outside, but are nervous on the inside. It's like, what do they call it? Like the duck syndrome. Like, the duck on the surface of the water just looks like it's cruising along and nothing's happening, but underneath the water, the little legs are going 1,000,000 miles an hour. That's like a lot of buyers when they make offers. So on receiving an offer, you've got to make a big deal out of it. Be happy. If they're in front of you, if they're a shake hands sort of person, shake hands. If they're a pump fist sort of person, or a high five person, or whatever, pat them on the back. Try and build that personal connection with them. On acceptance of offer, this is really important. When an offer gets accepted, the buyers will, you guys sign the necessary paperwork. They drive back home. You go, if you signed it at the house or wherever. My point is this: the night that they sign that paperwork, they're either really excited for their future, or they're really apprehensive about what comes next. For me, one of the things that everybody should do on acceptance of offer is, I call it a tuck them into bed call. That's where you call them the evening that the offer was made, and you just say, hey, look, I just wanted to say congratulations again. I've really enjoyed working with you to this point. There was a few other buyers that were circling, but I'm glad that you were the ones that got it. You got a great eye. Basically just reassuring them that they made a great offer and a great decision to purchase. Everybody wants to feel like they got a good buy. Nobody wants to feel like they got the scraps that nobody else wanted, if you will. So tuck them into bed calls once the offer's been accepted will help hold those deals together, and will also help show that you care. On exchange, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. On exchange, you really go over the top. You call them, you SMS them, you grab photos with them, you congratulate them, and you really sort of put it on thick, because that's very few times in people's lives will they buy a house, and you want to be part of that happy experience. You want to be, as part of that team. You want to be able to sort of celebrate in that joy. And then on settlement, obviously, it goes without saying. Some things people have done, some of my coaching clients, they'll send the pizza over the night of settlement and say, hey, look, you don't have to pay, your boxes are all unpacked, things are everywhere. Here's a couple of pizzas. If you want to do that, do that. That's about going above and beyond. If you want to just give them some vouchers so they great, do that. Give them, the gifts and the calls, but, do something that isn't expected. So I would like to finish that part there, because here's what I know, right? You go above and beyond with your current buyers and your current sellers, and you go and do some of those things we just spoke about for the last sort of 10 or 15 minutes. It will certainly help you grow your business. You don't have to do exactly what I said, but you can certainly put your own sort of spin on it, if you will, right? That's probably what I would say. So what I would like to sort of finish up on today is the fee scripts and dialogues, right? And I'm going to give you guys in about, I don't know, 7 or 8 minutes, I'm going to give you a link to the slides today, and I'm also going to give you a link to this ebook. So go. The ebook, as I said, hasn't been released yet. It's going to promo in the next sort of week to 2 weeks, so you guys are going to sort of get a head start on it. So I just wanted to sort of take you through a couple of the key dialogues in there, because it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. From coaching clients, one of my number one objections, or one of the number one topics of conversation we always have, is around fees. So I'm going to give you this booklet, but I just wanted to sort of just go through a couple of my key fee dialogues with you. One of my, and I'm not going to read them all just for time, because you're going to have access to them shortly anyway, but one of the things agents always come up against is the other agent will do it for X% less. So if you're in, regardless, they're doing it for 0.5% cheaper, 0.75% cheaper, 1% cheaper, regardless of what it is. And the common question I always get asked is, how do you handle that objection? What do you say? Now, the first thing I will say is something really simple. If you're getting, if a client is asking you to negotiate your fee, that is a good thing, because it means they're considering using you. That's thing number one. Thing number two, here's the next good thing. You don't need to have 50 responses. You only need to have sort of 3 or 4. So pick the ones you like out of these and choose, right? But for me, I always like to say this: better to allow an extra 1% in my success fee today than lose 10% of your sale price tomorrow, which basically means, the other agent, if they can't negotiate their fee, they're probably not going to negotiate your sale price very well. It's just a nicer way of saying it. But then you can even ask, if our fees weren't different, who would you hire? Then you can ask, why is that? You can say, well, if we're a little bit better, shouldn't you expect to pay a little bit more? A couple of good dialogues, right? Oops, I'm missing a page, I think. 4 and 5 are around the wrong way. But this one is one of my favorite ones. And one of my old mentors shared this one with me, and that was, you should be hiring an agent for their negotiating skills, not their discounting mentality. And for me, I'll just say something like this as a follow-on and say, look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's what I propose, or here's what I would suggest. You should be hiring somebody for their negotiating skills, not their discounting mentality. And what I mean by that is, before you get into fees with an agent, you should figure out who you think is the best agent to represent you. Once you've figured out who the best agent is, then figure out their fee. But ultimately, fee, in my opinion, matters very little until you figure out who the best agent is. Once you figure out who you want to represent you, then figure out your fee. But until then, you should be hiring your agent on their ability on how they negotiate, not on their discounting mentality. That's probably one of my favorite ones. And then for me, number 7 and number 6 are probably my first and second favorite, and that is I'm jumping around a little bit here, but I like to say, look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, from what I can sense, you're trying to hire me at the price of the agents you don't want to use. And they go, yeah. I go, well, look, why do you want to hire me? Oh, because you do better marketing, you've got better results. Well, wouldn't you expect to pay a little bit more is the sort of the follow-up. And then the last one I'm going to share with you around fees, and that is, is your feeling about winning a negotiation on fees, or is it about hiring the best agent? Because they're two very different things, and I absolutely agree with that. They're two very different things. Is your feeling about, let me say it again, is your feeling about winning a negotiation on fees, or is it about hiring the very best agent? Because they're two very different things. So let me give you this ebook, and again, you might just treat this as a cheat sheet. And what I mean by that is you might just print this out, stick it on your desk, take it into listing appointments with you. So you've got it, right? And at least that way, you can sort of reference it, and the more you sort of use it, the better it will sort of become, or second nature it will become. The last thing I wanted to share with you today is pretty simple, and that is a couple of digital marketing strategies, because that was the last agenda on my promo, if you will, and it's pretty simple, and that is, what are some good things that you can do right now on social media? And here's a couple of templates that we've created in the last few months that are getting great traction, getting great engagement, and I would like you to be able to R&D it. Normally R&D is research and development, but in this case, I want you to R&D it as simple as rip off and duplicate it, right? So this template is great for your social media. You can also use it as part of your email, but your postcode goes up the top, and then just talk about your average days on market, your average sale price, your low sale price, your median sale price, and then call to book in for a free appraisal. Really good sort of little digital, either for your Instagram, your Facebook, or whatever it may be. I really like this one, and it's just a little bit of information. If you're reaching potential sellers, 7 benefits of using a real estate agent to sell your home. List at the right price. Better homes with better home sell with better preparation. Get more buyer exposure, higher offers, speed up the time to settlement, which is close. You can change that word. Negotiate better inspections. Home sellers at top dollar. So, when you're choosing an agent, some of the advantages of using this, right? And then one of the things that's been working really well in social media and digital land is using a nice sort of template to share your testimonials. So you might have the photo of the client in the background, what the client said, and then your agent details. So I just wanted to share a couple of those with you before we finish up. So I'm going to give you guys, hey Justine, I'm going to give you guys access to those templates. Again, Kathleen, they're just in Jiggler. Those templates are sitting in the social media tab. You can access them. You can use them. You can create them. So before I give you those links, because we're just on 12 o'clock now, so I think we should be finished in a couple of minutes. Before I give you those links, is there any questions, any comments, or any comments from today's session? So I've got some great, love it, that's awesome.